Okay.
Ready? So metal hooks can be absolutely invaluable. They're really important to be able to use, and it's really hard to replace a metal hook once you lose one or it's gone. So what we're going to talk about today is how to make a traditional native hook, and these are pretty simple to make, and ones as small as this are really tedious to make, so I'm going to make one larger so you can see the braid of how I wrap the hook. So all we're going to start with, a stick, just any old stick, and we're going to carve out just one side of it so it's flush like that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to flatten this down on both sides. One thing I like to do is I like to leave the hook really long so that way I have something to hold on to while I'm carving it and I don't have to carve towards myself. So once it gets nice and flat like that, what we're going to do is start narrowing out the rest of the hook. This part's the more finicky part, but what we're going for here is we have our wedge right there, and we're going to round this section off. So what all of this is going to be the main shank. This is going to be where your hook's at. So our hook's going to look basically like this before we tie our spike on. So for our spike, I recommend you use a piece of bone or a hardwood, a really hardwood, or in this case, I'm actually using bamboo for sake of simplicity. And that's going to go on just like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your string, you're going to lay it down the lengthwise, or the length of the shaft all the way to the tip. You're going to bring it over the very tip of the chisel point. We're going to bring this under and around the top of our loop carving here. Then we're going to bring it back down, under, and then over this again. And the point of doing that is so that way the string's already there and you're not having to hold 8 things in place at once. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our spike and replace the one right here. We're going to loop that over. That's going to lock it in. Now we're going to repeat the same pattern. Over the top, we'll go under here, over the spike, over the top, over the spike, and just keep doing that figure 8 under and over pattern. And keep doing that until you get to the very end of the spike. And this tail end here, the friction of wrapping it will keep that in place. You don't have to worry about that. So now, what we've done is we've gotten to the very end of the spike, and what we can do is just wrap it around the shank up a little ways. If we have a little bit of excess cord to get rid of, no big deal. And then we can just simply tie it off. So at this point, the actual hook itself is done. That's really strong. So what we're going to do next, we're going to carve ourselves a little notch into the top of where the hook is. And that's where our line will go. And then we can just cut the top of it off. Cut the excess string off. And there's your hook. If the barb is a little bit too long, you can just cut that back. And what you can do to adjust the offset of the barb or the gap is by changing the angle of this chisel point that you cut. So a steeper chisel point is going to close the gap. A wider chisel point is going to make the gap bigger. So this would be used for a pretty large fish, but you can scale it down for whatever size fishes you want. The smaller it is, the more finicky it's going to be though. So at this point we've got our hooks. You would tie your line around here, and your bait, you can take a worm and slide over the hook part, or you can take a large worm or a frog, or whatever kind of bait that you have, and wrap it around the hook and tie it. And with those primitive hooks, it's better to let the fish swallow it at least partially before we try to hook, set the hook. And that's it. These are two primitive, traditional style hooks. Go outside, practice it, play with it, maybe even try and catch yourself a fish with it. But with that said, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If you haven't already, hit the bell icon down below. You'll get notified every time I upload a new video. I'll see y'all in my next one. Don't mind the dogs. They're irritating the heck out of me this time.
Yeah.